They didn't call him a victim. They didn't even call him human. When authorities found him wandering along a rural road at dawn, barefoot, bleeding, and barely able to speak, the reports described him as unresponsive, abnormal, possibly non-compliant. What no one realized, what no one bothered to check, was that his body was already telling a story, a disturbing one, and it would take forensic science to prove that the man standing in front of them had been misjudged from the very first second. He had no identification, no phone, no record in nearby systems. Just scars, deep ones, old ones, and fresh injuries layered on top. Medical staff assumed intoxication. Some whispered about mental illness. Others used a word that would quietly shape the entire investigation: inhuman. He didn't respond the way they expected. His pupils reacted slowly. His skin showed strange discolorations. And his blood work, at first glance, made no sense at all. So the system did what it often does when it doesn't understand something. It stopped looking. Hours turned into days. And still, no one asked the most important question: who is he? Instead, his body was treated like a problem to manage, not evidence to examine. Until one forensic nurse noticed something no one else had bothered to document. Under UV light, patterns emerged on his skin. Not bruises, not rashes. They were healed incision sites. Surgical, precise, repeated. This wasn't neglect. This was history. A deeper forensic examination began, quietly, almost reluctantly. Hair samples, tissue swabs, blood drawn again, this time properly cataloged. What the lab found was disturbing. His genetic markers didn't match local population databases. Not because he was unknown, but because portions of his DNA had been altered, not mutated, modified. The initial conclusion was dismissed as contamination, but repeated testing yielded the same result. This man had undergone experimental medical procedures, and someone had gone to great lengths to erase the trail. Records were eventually found, not in criminal databases, but in abandoned medical archives tied to a defunct research facility. Years earlier, a man matching his description had volunteered for a clinical trial, one that promised treatment for a rare neurological condition. The trial was shut down. Participants were declared non-compliant, and then they vanished. This man hadn't disappeared. He had survived. But survival came at a cost written into his cells, his scars, his altered biology. Forensics didn't just vindicate him. They proved he had been used. The final revelation came from a detail so small it almost went unnoticed. A genetic tag, inserted during the trial, was designed to track subjects permanently, but it failed in only one case. His, which meant something terrifying. He wasn't the experiment that went wrong. He was the one who escaped. And the reason the system was so quick to dismiss him was because recognizing his humanity would have exposed everything. This is what happens when stories are ignored, but evidence is not. If you want more cases where forensic science exposes the truth others tried to erase, subscribe to Vindicated Archive, Karma Forensic, and ask yourself, how many stories never get this chance?